We have a data set loaded in StatCrunch that has males and females listed and their associated heights for a group of 12th graders in Texas in the year 2014. And we're going to compare these two data sets, and we'll do that by looking first at a dot plot. So we'll click Graph, Dot Plot, Height, Group by Gender. We're going to have a point size of 1, and we would like for this graph to use the same access for both data sets. And so we wind up with this very nice dot plot here that has the females and the males listed. And what we would like to do is make comments about the shape, center, and spread for both data sets. Looking at the males, we can see that we don't necessarily have a particularly bell-shaped distribution here. I would say that this is not necessarily bell-shaped, and we would have to be careful about using the empirical rule with this data set. The same thing with the females. I wouldn't say that this particular set is bell-shaped. And again, we would want to be careful about using the empirical rule to apply to this data set. Another comment about the shape of the males is that, we're kind of clustered here in this just below 160 to just around 170 range. And then we appear to have some outliers out here to the left for the males. So when we talk about this shape again, we might mention that there might be some outliers to the left. And when we look at the females, I think we see the same thing, that we appear to have some outliers to the left. The center, again, it appears that the males are centered maybe right around the 170 centimeter range. The females appear to be centered maybe right around just above the 160 centimeter range. The males appear to have a bit less spread in the data set. So when I compare these two data sets and talk about their spread, I think that I might say that the females appear to have a larger standard deviation than the males. Now let's look at the actual output in StatCrunch for the measures of the mean and the standard deviation. So we'll click Summary Statistics, Columns. I'm going to choose Height. I'm going to Group by Gender, and I'm going to click Compute. Now we made a comment earlier about the means for the males and the females, and we said that the males had a center around 170 centimeters. It turns out that that's actually a bit lower than that, 165.2, and we can see that the two dots that appear to be outliers are pulling that mean down. Then the females, we said, had a center just above 160, but it's actually lower than that. Again, we have these low values that appear to be pulling the center down. So if we maybe might want to perform this calculation, Q1 minus 1.5 IQR and Q3 plus 1.5 IQR, in order to determine whether or not we have outliers in the data set. We can use StatCrunch to do that, to make those intervals, because StatCrunch will tell us everything that we need to know to do that. What we would need to know would be the first and third quartiles for each group and the interquartile range. For the males, that interval will be 128 to 192. For the females, that interval will be 152 to 185. So looking at this dot plot, then, we can see that the males do have outliers in these two lower data values, and the females do have outliers in the two lower data values. So when we made this conjecture by examining the dot plot, we find that conjecture to be true by finding these intervals.